Ladies and gentlemen, YouTubers around the world, welcome back to another How to Play FFA. I'm your host, NastyNate888, and today I'm going to show you how to play the Byzantines. Scratch that, how to play Order of the Dragon. Alright, I just played a Byzantine game, so, sorry guys. Got a little confused there for a second. Heads in the game now. Let's get into it. So, to start things off here, I think I might split this into two. Maybe I'll do one with OOTD, one with HRE, but I'll do one where we're trying to do Sacred Site and one where we're not. So to start off, the reason you would go Sacred Site is if there's one Sacred Site, right? That's like a huge, invitation, a huge incentive to go ahead and try to take the Sacred Site if there's only one, which is the case in this game, happens to be. Now, the other huge incentive to take Sacred Site right away is if you're the only OOTD or HRE player, which means that you're very likely to be the only one trying to build in the middle. So that's another plus as well. So in this game, right away I recognize the fact that it's looking highly likely that we want to try to do this, but I'll talk more about that as we get into it here. So whenever you place your town center down, you want to be obviously close to the Sacred Site. I mean, sometimes you don't want to be this close because it's a huge tell and players will call you out early even before you take the Sacred Site in some lobbies when they see this kind of thing going down. But in this case, this was where the resources were. We want the deer obviously, and the gold are the two things we want the most here because we want to rush up to age 3 and get our Regnates right away. So we can get a prelate out and he can take the Sacred Site, and we can also look for relics and try to capture as many as we can. So, I'm trying to kill these deer when they come in close to the town center. Obviously, pretty typical. But go ahead and speed things up here. We'll just keep watching from my perspective. So I'm scouting around my base. I want to know what's close. I have scouted there's a river on this map, but since I'm trying to rush, the fastest possible castle age, going for water doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I need that early wood investment, and it's going to delay me by a couple minutes. And the truth is that when you're going for a Sacred Site early victory right away in the game, in FFA, every second counts, right? Like, you want to make sure that you're not wasting any time aging up to castle, because that can make the entire difference between, winning the game and getting overrun by all the players in the lobby. So another bonus we have here in this game is we have a river here, so that makes it harder for if there's any players on the bottom side of this river, it's going to make it harder for them to get across and contest the Sacred Site. So there's just a lot of things going right in this game for a Sacred Site victory. And, we can always, one of the things that I like to do if I'm going for this build is you can skip the mine work, right? If you unless you have nowhere to put your auction chapel, that's going to help you, which is unlikely. You're not going to be needing those. The blacksmith upgrades, of course, are nice to have. I'm not going to say they aren't. Like, the ranged attack when you're getting attacked is always great to have that cheaper, but you don't really need any of those unique upgrades. They're not really going to come into play in a Sacred Site victory attempt game. So of course we're going to go with Auction Chapel in this case. In any other case, I would say go for mine work with OOTD especially. They have some great upgrades in the mine work with the crossbows and stuff like that. So definitely recommend those. But we're going with auction. We're only putting 2 vills to age up. We're trying to, we want to go. We could do 1, we could do 2. I'm just doing 2 in this case because, just because I want to get it up maybe a little bit faster, just because I know it's going to help me mine these resources faster. But it doesn't really matter. But I wouldn't recommend more than 2 vills on the age up here, because we're basically, as soon as we age up, we want to be looking to put down our next, landmark to age 3, right? So. Now, one thing you can do here, which I'll mention, is obviously you're just putting guys on food and gold, right? I have 4 on gold. I'm just spamming everything else to food. But I usually make 2 scouts with this build, and here's why. The main reason is to find a bunch of relics and kind of scout out what's going on around me. I want to find all the relics that I can on the map. In this case, there weren't very many to be found. But You know, getting those 2 scouts out pretty quickly also helps you get sheep if you're short on food. In this case, we actually are short on food. As you can see, we're already running out of the deers. We're not even going to be able to get our age up with just the deer. So we moved up here to get the berries. What we really should have done is move down here. We've got berries and fish, but I didn't see this right away. So there's shoreline fish here. That would be great to take. We don't have a lot of deer actually where we are. We're kind of also, you can see we have some natural barriers in the base, which are great, are just amazing for the sacred site attempt. This is probably one of the most ideal situations, you know, you could have. But despite all that, I actually got a little bit, I almost got cold feet on the sacred site attempt, and I'll explain that in a second here as my scouts continue around the map. We basically see that there are players and basically all around us from every side. They're kind of evenly spaced as far as we can tell. There might be more players that we don't see yet. But as soon as we age up to age 3, we want to, you know, we want to check and hit the king ability right away, maybe even before we take the sacred site, because we want to see what the situation is going to be. What kind of situation are we going to have to deal with holding the sacred site? If there's players, you know, really close to each other out there on the map and they're going to be fighting, or if there's players behind other players coming in, it's going to make, you know, that sacred play a lot more viable. And we want to make sure that it's viable before we commit to it, because once we take it, there's no going back, right? We can't say, oh, actually, I want to cancel this and I don't want to go for sacred victory. You know, there's no doing that, right? Once you're in, players are going to target you. They're going to come for you. And another thing I'll mention too is you can actually do sacred victory attempts like this if there's like more than one. If there's 2 really close to each other or something like that is possible. The problem with it is, especially with OOTD, is you can only build, you know, the 1 prelate at a time, and so you're going to be delayed. So even if they're right next to each other, like say there's a sacred site here and here, I'm going to have to take one and then, you know, build another prelate, take the other. So it's going to delay my timing there. And like I said, every second counts. You can pull, like, you know, I would say anywhere between, I would say 7 to 12 vills to build your regnants here whenever you're doing this age up rush. I only pulled a few because I want to keep going. Basically what I want to do, I see there's not a lot of relics in my neck of the woods. I know I'm not going to be getting many, maybe 2, maybe more, we'll see. But the main thing is I want to be pushing for Imperial. I want to get my L's back out is the priority here, right? You want to put like 1 tower down and get some emplacements on it, but we have our towns that are guarding this side, so that's great. We don't really need a tower over here, but maybe a tower on this side or something would be great so that we can, you know, sometimes players, when you take the sacred right away, they'll come and try to contest it right away with their scout or make a, you know, some kind of cavalry unit or a couple of units really early. And sometimes that can get you. It can delay your site, even prevent you from capturing it if they're clever about it. In this case, our town center is blocking the entire sacred site, so that's one thing to look for if you can, if it looks good to build your town center, covering the entire sacred site. So if someone does try to send in their scout, my town center can hit them. Now we're starting to make our prelates. We're trying to pick up these. We didn't actually go straight for the sacred this time. I wanted to get this away from red, but unfortunately, red was 1 step ahead of me, and he did wall that off. So now our sacred site victory attempt is a little bit delayed here because I did send my first prelate over here first. But you know, I would recommend just going straight for the site because the longer you delay, the worse it's going to get, right? So you want to get this around 10 minutes or 11 minutes as early as you can, right? So we did find a way through, but I don't think our prelate's going to be able to make it out of there. He walled all the way, I believe, to the water here. We tried to go around this way and we couldn't. But we did capture right here, 1124. So it's kind of a late attempt. And the players are pretty well spread, as we see with our king check. The players are pretty well spread, but there are some huge advantages. Obviously, the 2 players on the other side of the water here, one behind the other, is what we're looking for. And we see Teal up here in the corner. He's completely... Excuse me. He's completely almost surrounded. Like, he'll never be able to come out here almost and help with the sacred victory because he's so far back here in this corner. So this is exactly the kind of game where things are going to be looking good for us, where we can, you know, we can kind of secure this game a little bit easier. Now we're going straight up to L's back. I'm a little bit risky here. I'm putting this down a little bit late. And you know, sometimes people will try to put a keep up. One thing you can do instead of going straight to Elsback is put a keep up first. Get some stone right away and then look for Elsback if you can get it. But I think the Elsback, usually players won't try to contest the Sacred right away with more than a unit or two, because they just know that it's a waste of time. They're not going to, you know, you're only 10 minutes in the game, so you got to think where other players are. They're not even in age 3 yet. You're going to be there first. So there's not much they can do right away to contest the node. So you kind of be a little bit greedy here, especially when you have your town center covering the Sacred completely like I do. So we're going straight up to Imperial, trying to get Elsback. And we are still, you know, mining some, gathering some food as much as we can, so we'll be able to do that. And we haven't even started with stone yet, but that will be the next step, of course. Once we gathered enough resources for, let's speed things up here a little bit. Once we've gathered enough resources for Elsback, that's pretty much all the food you're probably gonna need. You can keep enough to keep pumping villagers. For me, I'm gonna get a little bit more food than normal. The reason being is I'm trying to experiment more with building units to defend the Sacred. In the past, in previous patches, it was very common to build a wall and just defend only with siege. The problem with that is these days siege is way weaker to its, you know, ranged attacks and stuff like that. So having a couple of siege unit, a couple of culverins or mangonels behind walls isn't as effective as it used to be, in my opinion. So I'll just try to make some units to help defend. I mean, you know, maybe keep some spears to keep the cavalry off of the node, stuff like that, right? So we tried to go get this relic, but you can see we've only got one relic. It's very unfortunate. You know, having one is good though, just to put in your Elsback, made that particular building extra strong, right? But obviously you want 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, it would be really nice to have, the more you have, the better, right? So unfortunately, this game, there was one downside with that situation. So now that we've had enough to get our Elsback, I'm only putting a few vills to build it because I know I'm not gonna be under threat just yet. We have time. And we're trying to pump out as much stone as we can. We want to prioritize getting a cannon emplacement here, typically. That'll keep pretty much anything off of it, right? And then we want to get our upgrades, our boiling oil and our fire armor. Those are going to be the next two things that are going to be key here. And now we're trying to mine plenty of stone, and you can see we're not worrying too much about our food now. We've shifted most of the stone so we can build keeps around here, build walls as well. Here comes the first keep. We've moved our relic, as you can see, into the Elsback, which is going to improve the power of the Elsback. You can see the armor, the damage, sight range, and weapon range, all improved. So this has been nerfed a little bit, I believe, but it's still very strong, right? Obviously, we have emergency repairs. We have a lot of resources as the Civ. It's one of the easiest Civs to capture the Sacred Site, and personally, it's one of the only Civs I recommend doing. You can technically try to do it with other Civs, but it's just so much easier with OOTD and HRE. Just because of emergency repairs, because of like things like the fire armor, stuff like that. So, as you can see, we're already 3 minutes away from Sacred victory here. We just hit the ding, and we're finally getting attacked by the first player to try to contest us. We have a couple spears, but unfortunately he has the horse archers, which aren't what I was hoping to counter here. I was thinking cavalry would be coming, you know, melee cavalry, but the ranged archers are going to be annoying, but you can see they just can't really do anything here with the cannon emplacement on the Elsback. They're just getting shredded by these keeps and by these Elsbacks. We can, as the timer, let's slow things down here. So a kill has been made. Looks like pink killed orange, so that's great. That's what we were hoping for and expecting to happen. Players are fighting each other. Because, you know, they can't really help it. They already had a plan in motion to fight another player, or they're just so close and the other player's in the way, right, that they can't really do anything else. So what you can do as the timer ticks down the last couple of minutes is you can just like pull your vills, especially as players come in and they try to contest the node. Pull your vills into your keeps, into your Elsback, garrison them for that extra, you know, for those extra arrow slots. It's going to do a lot of damage. And you also want to, you know, keep in mind keeping your units on the Sacred Site so it doesn't get decapped. Make these players bleed a lot of units that they don't want to be bleeding, you know. If they don't build rams right away, you're going to be good. If they do build rams, this is one of the reasons why I'm starting to favor just making some like barracks, some archery ranges, especially the like units that can kill rams. And our opponent here is bringing in the relics. He's donating relics to us to try to, I guess, yeah, that unit got destroyed right away too. He's trying to Wololo us, but of course it's not going to work. And now, you can see he just has a few horse archers here. There's not a lot Red can do by himself. There's no way you're going to be contesting a sacred site alone, and it's a complete failure. So other players are starting to, get interested in trying to. Even Teal somehow made it past green. Or he's killed green. I guess green's been killed by purple or teal, as we were predicting. And yeah, so this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, players will fight each other naturally just because of where they spawned. And you don't always you should never really have to fight every player in the lobby. If you do, you shouldn't have taken Sacred Site and you made a mistake, right? Like if they're literally all surrounding you and they're not going to fight each other, or you get called out super early. Say if someone had even typed in the chat like, hey, blue on Sacred Site, and then players had, started to rally, I probably still would have taken it, because at that point you're going to be targeted regardless, right? So you might as well just go for, YOLO, go for it and try to just do it, because players are going to try to kill you anyways. But you got to keep those things in mind, and sometimes it doesn't always work, right? Like, it's not always going to work, but it's just like, in this case, the lobby, they didn't call it out. They weren't the highest level players, right? So we were able to succeed, and that's basically it, guys. Get all those emplacements and build, the cannon placements. Prioritize those on the keeps. Build more keeps around it, and just, if you need to spam emergency repairs, you can. If you need to pull your vills to kill enemy rams that are starting to break into your base, that's a great way to get rid of those. One of the most annoying things when dealing with this type of situation is someone builds really early trebuchet, right? Like an English player throws up a white castle right next to your middle of the base, or right near the middle of the map, and starts spamming trebuchets. That can be tough, but you do have the emergency repairs, so you can utilize that and use it right away, so that it'll be up. The cooldown is very, very short, so you can do that, and you shouldn't have any issues. So it's one way to win an FFA. I'll definitely be covering the non-sacred side attempt with these civs as well. So tune in for the next one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And please, any questions you guys have, ask me in the comments. Right now, I'm kind of mixing these playthroughs or these learned how to plays as like a kind of a hybrid cast how to play. So they're a little bit longer form. So I was kind of debating if I should just do some cuts, do some editing, make really short form videos for these how to plays, just give you guys the bullet points, stuff like that. So let me know if you want something like that. Maybe I can work it out for some of the other civs. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Catch you in the next one. Master Nate, 888 out.